Hey guys, how's it going? This is the Bald Metal Nerd coming at you with another wonderful vid. Obviously, you know what this is going to be because you read the title. Finally, I am going to be talking about the mighty Iron Maiden, worst to first of their albums. And, like I've said in my past few videos, what inspired this whole series of videos was I went to a Judas Priest concert back in September, and I wore an Iron Maiden shirt to that concert because I didn't have a Judas Priest one at the time. And a lot of people there were wearing Iron Maiden shirts. So I thought, hey, it'd be a lot of fun to go ahead and talk about Judas Priest and Iron Maiden and eventually do a comparison between the two. But this is not the comparison video. This is just me talking about uh, how I rate the Iron Maiden albums. So let's go ahead and get right into it. The worst, I'm going to start, of course, with a few notes before I start. Just because an album is low in the ranking does not mean I don't like the album. If I don't like the album, I will tell you straight out that I don't like the album. You may find my ranking controversial, but you know what? This is my personal opinion. If you don't like it, oh well. So, with that being said, the lowest ranking worst Iron Maiden album is, drumroll, completely unsurprising, is Virtual XI. Um, on a scale of 1 to 100, I rate that only a 35. My main problem with that album is there's just a complete lack, at least the way it's recorded or mixed or something is off. It's the lack of harmonization between the vocals and the music. It just ruins that album completely. The music is fine. In fact, The Klansman, if you listen to Bruce sing it live, is awesome, right? But something just went very wrong in the recording or mixing or something of the album. I think this would be actually probably a really good album if it was re-recorded with Bruce singing. I think the biggest problem with this album is the way Blaze's vocals interplay with the music. It just, to me, doesn't work. I don't know why. It's just a major. By the way, I don't blame Blaze for this. I actually talked well of him on the other album, but we'll get there. So it's just not done well. So that's their worst album, their biggest stumbling block in my opinion. So the second worst album is, you may or may not guess this one, The Final Frontier. It is, in my opinion, way too long, and it really works against it. There's just too many long, meandering filler songs on it, and there's some moments of brilliance. There's a few standout tracks that raise it above just complete mediocrity. So it is slightly above mediocre. I rate it a 58. It's not awful, but it is completely forgettable and not worth really listening to, in my opinion. After that, my third least favorite Maiden album. The quality goes up quite a bit on this, by the way. Now we're going to get into albums I actually own. My least favorite album that I actually own by Iron Maiden is, of course, you're probably going to guess this, maybe not, No Prayer for the Dying. I rate this one a 70. I think it's a bit unfairly maligned by a lot of fans, but I find it to be a bit above average, and there are some really good songs on this. I really like Tail Gunner and Holy Smoke, Running Silent, Running Deep, Hooks in You, and Mother Russia. I like all that stuff. Oh, of course, Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter. I love that song. It's so goofy. It's great. I actually like this album a fair bit. A lot of people hate it. I actually like it. Now, we're going to talk about another Iron Maiden album that I like, but I don't own. And I actually used to own this album, but I got rid of it back in the day, and I wish I hadn't. And that, of course, is the other Blaze Bayley album. This is my next least favorite. It's the X Factor. I rate that one a 75. I think they're with Blaze's vocals, they did a much better job on the X Factor fitting with him than they did on the second album. It's a very dark sounding album, and it meshes really well with Blaze's vocals. And I just really like it. It's got good production on it. The songs are a bit long, but it's actually a really, to me, a really solid album and pretty enjoyable to listen to, actually. I really like it. I think it works pretty well. In fact, if I ever see the album out in the wild, I plan on buying it again. So there you go. Now, let's go into the rest of the albums I own in physical form, so I'll be showing them off. So what's my next least favorite one? But we're getting into good albums here. So from here on out, I like all of these. I mean, hell, I liked, starting with No Prayer for the Dying, but now we're getting into like pretty good albums, right? So the next one is A Matter of Life and Death. I rate this one an 80. There are several incredible songs on this album. These colors don't run, Brighter Than 1,000 Suns, The Longest Day, For the Greater Good of God. I mean, those are just awesome songs in my opinion. But it suffers a little bit from too long itis. But the songs that are a bit too long are just good. They're not great, but that's why this is an 80. I mean, I think there's some absolutely fantastic top shelf material on it, but there is a few things that drag it down a little bit, but it's still really good. So that being said, the next one is Bam, their debut. I rate this one an 85. It's really good, but it's a hell of a debut album. An 85 rating for a debut album is great. Fantastic for a debut. But it is a debut, and you could tell that there's a few tracks on here that are a little wonky, right? But it's still good, and it's still, honestly, essential for any Iron Maiden fan, in my opinion. So, that being said, that's where I rate this one. Now, my next one is probably going to be controversial for being relatively low in my ranking. So, deal with it, guys. But I'll explain why. I also rate this one an 85, by the way. But again, when I have two albums that I rate the same, I arbitrarily just pick a favorite one over the other. So my arbitrary pick for my second 80 rating of 85 album is Seventh Son of a Seventh Son. Overall, I mean, let's see how many songs are on this one. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 8 songs on it. 6 of the 8 are amazing. Classic, fantastic, and then 2 of the songs are Infinite Dreams and The Prophecy. Those are, in my opinion, filler tracks. Infinite Dreams and The Prophecy, I just don't like them. I tried, listening to those songs I listened to the whole album, obviously, and 6 of the 8 tracks I love. I love. But Infinite Dreams and The Prophecy, I just could not connect with those songs. Just don't like them. So, hence why it's an 85 and not a perfect score. So, moving on from Seventh Son. Now we're getting into masterpiece territory. All of the rest of the albums, I'm going to rate a 90 or above. Some will be the same rating, and again, it will be my own arbitrary picks as to what I pick to be my, favorites. So, the first, what I rate a 90, is going to be Killers. This is an absolutely amazing, fantastic album. And a bit better than their debut. I mean, I rated their debut an 85. This is a 90. So it kind of, for lack of a better term, kind of jumped them up a little bit, right? Just like, they went from being good to being absolutely great on this album. So there you go. The only thing I really don't like on this one is Prodigal Son. I think it's long and boring, and it's the only blemish, which is otherwise an incredibly awesome album. So there you go. So what's my second 90 percenter? My second 90 percenter, again, is a arbitrary choice. Book of Souls. Most double albums can never hope to be this good. It is so good for. I mean, it is. The length really does work for this. Normally, I don't say that. It's a really long listen, but it is so satisfying. It's not perfect, but it is damned close at 90. It is. I just love this album. It just seeps into your brain, and it's just great. Just a great album front to back, in my opinion, even though it's a double album. So there's that. And my third and final 90%. Yeah, I know I'm really hedging it on the 90%, but I just feel that that's what these are, right? Entry level masterpieces. I know I'm really splitting hairs, but whatever. So my third 90%er is Fear of the Dark. A lot of people really don't like this album very much. This was actually the first Maiden album I ever bought, and I bought it on cassette when I initially got it. I think this might have been the only Maiden album I ever owned on cassette, because I think it's the only one I bought before I started collecting CDs. I think. I know I bought it in high school because I actually discovered. Well, I didn't discover. I mean, I knew about Iron Maiden. Fine, let me just put it another way. High school was the time when I started, because when I first got into metal, all I wanted to listen to was thrash, and bands that were, that had formed, I don't know, closer to the time that I discovered metal. So me listening to Iron Maiden was kind of me going back a little bit in metal, right? So Maiden was them, Priest, and Sabbath were, I kind of started listening to them all roughly the same time. And this is honestly the first album by those bands that I remember buying myself, was Fear of the Dark. And a lot of people really don't like this, but personally, I love it. I think it's entertaining front to back. And there's a lot of really good tracks on this. But it's not perfect, and I acknowledge it. That's why this is a 90. It's extremely good, and in my opinion, a masterpiece because it's fantastic, but not perfect. Finally, we move out of the 90. Well, the 90%. We're not out of the. We're not to 100% yet, but we'll get there. Don't worry. Maiden has a few of those. So anyway, the next album. I rate this one a 93, and this is going to be a controversial choice for being this high on the list. Some people don't like this, but I don't care. Dance of Death. Obviously, the album cover on this is shit. I don't think anybody would debate that, but who cares about the album cover? Don't judge a book or an album by its cover, I suppose, right? The songwriting on this is incredible. I absolutely love the hell out of the songs on this. In fact, it's so good that the only reason that this did not get a higher rating is because of the production. The production, I don't know what they were smoking when they mixed this thing, mastered it, whatever. The production is bad. It's just bad. If the production was good, this might be my second favorite Iron Maiden album. If the production was better on this, I like the songs on this so much. So I rate this one a 93. Next up, again, we're going to have the same rating, but again, this is my arbitrary choice. So here we go. My second 93 is Peace of Mind, and it's mostly killer. There's only one song I don't like, Revelations. Just can't get into it. And it has 3 all-time Maiden classics. I mean, it has Flight of Icarus, The Trooper, and To Tame a Land. And all the other songs except for Revelations are just fantastic. I love this album. It is awesome. The end. Okay. So, moving on from that, we've got, I rate this next one a 94. And it's probably controversial that I'm going to rate the next album above this one, but that's okay. I don't think anyone will have a problem with my top two choices, but someone will probably complain about this one. I'm throwing out Somewhere in Time. I rate this a 94. And it's an incredibly great, awesome album. It's a little short of perfection, but who cares? It's amazing and great. So there you go. Somewhere in Time. I rate that a 94. And we are going to now talk about our final sub 100 album. And the only flaw I think I have with this album is some of the songs could have been shortened a bit, but it's still a nearly perfect album. All killer, no filler. This album is absolutely fantastic. I love the hell out of this. And I am talking about their reunion album, Brave New World. Absolutely incredible. In my opinion, front to back. My favorite song on this is probably Out of the Silent Planet. Oh, I love that one. That is just such a great song. But all of it's great. I love every song on this, but that one is just my favorite for some reason. So, 95, absolutely fantastic album. So, now of course we are going to talk about Iron Maiden's top two albums. And spoiler alert, I rate them both 100%. And there's only two albums left. So I'm sure you can figure out what they are. And as far as how did I figure out which one to go on top, of course, was my arbitrary taste on this. So my second favorite Iron Maiden album is Power Slave. What can I really say about this that hasn't already been said? It is just a fantastic, ridiculously great album. It's just, probably my favorite song on this one. Our favorite songs are Flash of the Blade and Power Slave. Those are, I don't know, I just love the riffing in those songs. I love the sound of them. It's just, I love all of the songs, but those two, are just the quote best, most special to me. I don't know why. I just love them. So there you go. Power Slave is my second favorite Maiden album. And of course, that leaves only one album. And of course, that can only be The Number of the Beast, right? Now I know not everyone rates this as their top pick. I do. Because I think it's absolutely fucking fantastic. It has, in my opinion, Maiden's best song ever, Hallowed Be Thy Name. That is my favorite Iron Maiden song ever. Ever. It's one of my favorite songs ever. So, by any artist. It is absolutely an amazing tour de force of a song. Everything on here is awesome. Invader, Children of the Damned, The Prisoner, 22, Acacia Avenue, Number of the Beast, Run to the Hills, Gangland, and all of this is just so good and absolutely a perfect album. So, anyway, that is basically it. I just talked about my favorite albums. Oh, I guess I will talk about my ratings of the albums. Now, I did this in my Judas Priest video, so I'm going to do this in my Maiden video as well. If I average together all of the Iron Maiden albums, every single Iron Maiden album, right? If I give them an average rating, it's 83.31 is what I rated all of them mixed together, right? Now, if I only talk about the albums that I like, it bumps it up to an 88.57. So, to me, again, this, I said this in my Priest video, and I'll repeat it again for Maiden. This proves in my opinion, at least for me, why they're absolutely one of the best bands to ever exist in heavy metal. Their body of work, and they have such a large body of work. Both Priest and Maiden have such large bodies of work that for it to be so high, for their albums to be so good on average, is just an incredible achievement for a band that has produced so much material and, you know, has that much influence and blah, blah, blah. So I think Iron Maiden is an incredibly great band and absolutely one of my favorites. So anyway, that pretty much wraps this up. And as always, if you like this, thumbs up. If you hate me, thumbs down. Share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.